Hey guys, this is Justin from Cooking with Coit. I specialize in clean comfort cooking, and today I'm going to show you how to make the very greatest, the best vegetarian enchiladas you've ever had. These vegetarian enchiladas are super cheesy and packed with a ton of healthy vegetables. They make for the perfect quick weeknight dinner, or gather your family and friends and make them for your Sunday night feast. And as always, if you love this recipe, please hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is make the enchilada sauce. So we're gonna start with 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and any flour will work here. 1 tablespoon of chili powder, and this can be a heaping tablespoon. 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and just 1/4 teaspoon of oregano. With our dry mixture set aside, now we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of olive oil to our pot. I'm not really measuring much here, and it's totally fine. Just put about 3 tablespoons, it'll be great. Now that the oil is nice and hot, we're gonna dump in our dry ingredients that we already measured. The key here is speed. So we need to be whisking as we are dumping. And I'm gonna try to look at you and do this at the same time. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so whisking, whisking, whisking. The reason why we're doing this all at the same time and we wanna keep the speed up is because we don't want anything in the bottom of the pot to burn. And it's especially important to get out any of the clumps. We're gonna be whisking this guy for about a minute. Now we're gonna add our 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And keep whisking. Whisk, whisk, whisk. Now we're gonna add our 2 cups of veggie broth. And let's whisk again to make sure everything is nicely combined. Come in and take a look at this. So now you're really seeing that beautiful red color starting to form. As I'm whisking here, the smell is just so incredible. It's really becoming fragrant. Now we're gonna turn up the heat and bring it to a simmer and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. As you can see, the sauce is thickened up just the perfect amount. Now, all that's left to do is add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon. Now I'm gonna add salt and pepper to taste. This is completely up to you guys how much you wanna add. I found when making this enchilada sauce, you actually wanna add a little bit more salt and pepper than you think. With the sauce made, now we're gonna move on to the enchiladas. So the first thing you're gonna do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Next, we're gonna move on to dicing up our veggies. So we've got 1 whole red pepper, and we've got a small-ish red onion. You want about a cup of chopped red onion. Moving on to the onion. Now remember, as you're cutting your red onion, make sure you set it aside from the bell pepper because that's what's gonna go in the pan first. Now we're gonna saute our veggies. So let's add a little oil to the pan. Just about 1 tablespoon is fine. The red onions are going in first. Whoa, that sizzle. Never gets old. We're gonna cook these onions for about 5 minutes, just until they're softened and a little translucent. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt to these onions. Now that the onions are softened, I'm gonna add in the red bell pepper. Now we're gonna cook both the red onions and the bell pepper together for a few minutes. Now we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of cumin to the sauteing veggies. Heaping teaspoon. Next, we're gonna add our 4 cups of spinach, and you don't have to be like too precise about how you measure this. I say a cup is about a handful, so 4 handfuls. I typically do about 2 handfuls, and then I cook it down, and then I add another 2 handfuls after that. The crazy thing about spinach to me is that I feel like I've added a ton to the pan already, but it cooks down so fast and it really shrinks. So you always have to add more than you think. Now let's add our second 2 handfuls of spinach. Adding a green vegetable like the spinach makes these vegetarian enchiladas even more healthy. All right, so come in and check this out. This is how we want everything to look. So these veggies are ready to go. I'm gonna set them aside and grab my other ingredients. Now we're gonna assemble our enchilada filling. So let's take our sauteed veggies and dump them in this bowl. Next, we're gonna add our 1 can of black beans drained and rinsed. 1 cup of Monterey Jack cheese. 1/2 cup of corn, I use frozen. And last but not least, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of the enchilada sauce that we made earlier. Let's mix it all together now. Because these veggies are still quite hot from the pan, what's really cool is that the cheese is already gonna start to melt. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt and pepper. Next, I'm going to grease this baking pan, and I'm gonna use a little olive oil and rub it in with a paper towel, but you could also just use an olive oil spray if you have it. Next, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of enchilada sauce, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. All right, guys, so now is the time we're gonna put everything together. Here's the technique. Take a little bit of sauce and put it on the tortilla, like so. Then, take some of the veggie mixture, dump it in there, like that. And now we're gonna roll it up and place it in the baking dish. When I do this, I feel like I'm making little baby burritos, and it's very cute. Next, we're gonna pour our enchilada sauce all over the enchiladas, but here's a very important tip. You wanna leave the ends of the enchiladas a little bare so that they get crispy in the oven. And now let's top it off with cheese. Now we're gonna pop these enchiladas in the oven and bake for 20 minutes. All right, guys, the enchiladas are done. Let's check them out. Whoa, look at how beautiful these look. These enchiladas look absolutely perfect. We didn't put the enchilada sauce or the cheese on the end, so they got nice and crispy. And cheese is in the middle. It's a little bit browned on the edges. Oh, delicious. My favorite garnish for these enchiladas is a little bit of cilantro. So let's sprinkle a little bit just on top. Before I give these enchiladas a taste, if you've loved this recipe and you want to see more, check out my Mexican recipes playlist. All right, let's give them a taste. I am so excited. Here we go. Ooh, I might burn my mouth, but it's worth it. Those are, hands down, the best homemade enchiladas I've ever made. And I know they will be for you too. These vegetarian enchiladas are so incredibly flavorful and they are packed with vegetables. You guys gotta try them.